Okay, so we have a lot to unpack here today. We're going to be going through the best way to build your team in late cycle Madden Ultimate Team. This will be a guide that's going to take you through every different archetype of player that is important to your defensive side of the ball. This will be defense only. Tomorrow, we will be doing an offensive video for you. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, get out your pen and pad, and let's get after it. Now, we're going to be starting off by kind of explaining what the Theme Team Surge promo is, because in my opinion, these are the best items in the game, simply due to the fact that their final bucket and their second to last bucket will basically have X factors. And these are free abilities that will be the basis for how you build each of these items individually. Coverage items will have coverage X factors, defensive line items will have defensive line X factors, and linebackers will have a mix of both depending on their archetype. So let's go ahead and start off here first and foremost with your defensive tackle position. Now, I don't care what type of defensive tackle you guys are using. This player in 99% of schemes is going to be rushing the passer every single down. So we are going to start off with the two X factors that you must use to get the most out of these players. The first one is going to be unstoppable force. Now, I know some of you are saying, Zan, Colossus. Allow me to explain. Colossus has one function that unstoppable force does not have, and that is the ability to split double teams. What EA does not tell you about those double teams is that if one of the players involved in the double team has the post-up ability, then the Colossus doesn't work at all. In other words, with the offensive lineman in this game getting like 5 free abilities, every single player you're going to face online is going to start off with secure protector all day and post up as 3 of the 5. And this means that any Colossus that's meeting a double team in the game when you play online, you're paying for nothing because it's going to be nullified by the post up. In other words, you're paying for one-on-one sheds. And if you're going to do that, unstoppable force is the best bang for your buck, because there is no difference between unstoppable force and Colossus when it comes to single team blocks. They will always get off of their block. Then our other ability. Now, there are 2 ways you could go with this, but I'm going to suggest that you guys go run stuffer. Run stuffer is basically if you were to take all the run stopping abilities in the game. We're talking the run stopper, we're talking inside stuff, we're talking no outsiders, we're talking out my way, and you combine them all into one and you put it on steroids. This ability, the bowling ball ability, is probably the most glossed over ability in Madden as it pertains to defensive line, because this is going to help you significantly against the run game. And at this point in the year, the run game is very, very good, especially with vanguards. This ability can stop vanguards from plowing through them. This is going to be really, really good for stopping a lot of the run spam that you guys face. So you guys are going to want this on your defensive linemen that are rushing the passer every single down. So make sure that you guys are rocking the unstoppable force and the run stuffer in your D tackles. And then from there, pay for whatever else you want. I would recommend having, tackling abilities such as tackle supreme or anything else that you might not normally utilize. This is a great opportunity for you guys to stack that on top of these abilities. I'm sure some of you are going to say in the comment section, can I put double or nothing on top of unstoppable force? Be my guest. Can I put edge threat elite on top of unstoppable force? Be my guest, albeit you wouldn't do it on a defensive tackle because that's not the edge, but you get the point that I'm making here. All right, everything else from there is basically up to you. You cannot screw up a card if you go with the 2 X factor abilities that I just gave you for defensive tackles. Now we're going to be talking about edge rushers here, so I'm going to select an edge rusher item. It is important for you guys to understand that when you are running a defense, there are 2 different types of edge rushers that I'm going to kind of give you guys an idea of how you might utilize them. The first is a full-time edge rusher. The other is going to be a hybrid edge rusher. Okay, so when we talk about a full-time edge rusher, we're talking about similar to a defensive tackle, a guy that's rushing the passer every single down. We are actually not going to change our approach here with this. We are going to rock unstoppable force in one of those buckets, and then we will run stuffer in another one of those buckets. However, if you do decide, you know what, I sometimes like to zone blitz and I'll drop my edge rusher into coverage, there is an ability that will change the way that I would tell you guys to equip your X factors. If you ever or frequently drop your player into coverage and you would like to get knockouts from this player, there is a different ability that I would recommend you guys utilize on your edge rusher, and that would be the dual threat ability. You see, dual threat is basically unstoppable force plus knockouts when you hit the player. There is no break on ball, however, associated with this. So when you guys do decide to build your player and you want to, build them for coverage purposes, you might have to go into their abilities. And if they get a zone KO, that is where you can build the actual break on the throw component of the knockout. Again, and some of you might say, well, if this ability, Unstoppable Force, is built within dual threat, you should just run dual threat, correct? That is fine. Absolutely, you can do that. Again, you're not going to notice in a situation where you're having a full-time edge rusher. Dual threat's going to play very, very similar to Unstoppable Force. So if you just want to rock the dual threat over Unstoppable Force, absolutely. But again, the other one is going to be run stuffer. So we've gone through the full-time D tackle rusher. We've gone through the full-time edge rusher. We've gone through the hybrid that might sometimes drop into a hook zone or a flat. Now let's get into linebackers. Linebackers right now in this game also get 2 of those X factors. So when we go over and we upgrade these cards, you guys are going to be taking a look at, once again, the final bucket and this bucket right here, the second to last bucket. So what we're going to be doing here is, once again, rocking the run stuffer ability. The game right now is built around running the ball, spamming the run game altogether. You want these players, I don't care if they're inside linebackers or outside linebackers on the edge, you want these players to be able to shed the run. It is very, very important. You will note that certain abilities in this game, such as Out My Way, have impact block wins or run block sheds against wide receivers, halfbacks, and tight ends. Those positions don't include offensive linemen that have run protector or vanguard. So you want to make sure that you have something that is a little bit more overarching and universal for the run game. This ability is so slept on. It's very, very, very important. And then from there, we are going to be rocking dual threat. All right. So your other ability is going to be the dual threat. Now you're probably saying, Zan, why not reinforcement? Because the run shedding component of reinforcement is found inside of run stuffer. The knockout component of dual threat is found in reinforcement. What reinforcement doesn't give you is the unstoppable force. So when you think about it, this is basically like saying we've got reinforcement plus unstoppable force plus run stuffer all built into one when you guys compare the bowling ball with the dual threat. The best part is that the dual threat is now free on these items. And this 1 week ago was a 1 AP X factor. So you guys will be running the bowling ball plus the unstoppable force that's built into dual threat, plus the knockouts that are built into dual threat. Once again, just as a reminder for those that are maybe skipping around the video looking for positions of importance, what you will notice out of the dual threat ability is that it does not have that fast break on ball. If you've ever noticed players turn around in coverage and break back on a corner route, or they're sitting in a hook zone and they drive on a throw underneath on a drag to cause a knockout, if you want those break on ball abilities in these buckets on these cards, you will need to choose the knockout ability that corresponds with the types of coverage you play. In other words, if your middle linebacker plays a lot of hook zones, you're going to be playing mid zone knockout to get that faster break on ball. Yes, it also knocks the ball out, but we need that faster break on ball component. That is a must. It condenses down the timing windows that your opponents can throw the ball over the middle. If they don't have that break on ball, everything in the middle of the field is going to feel so much more open. Conversely, if your player mostly plays flat zones, like in a cover 3 flat or a cover 4 flat on the outside linebackers, you'll want to make sure that they have the flat zone KO. This is not the same game that it was 3 years ago where mid zone lit up everywhere on the field and broke on the ball immediately. Now you basically have to be in the spot on the field in the zone that corresponds with the knockout, meaning that if you got a flat zone on the field, but you only have mid zone knockout, he's not going to get the break on ball from the mid zone unless he happens to be standing in the middle of the field in his flat zone. So make sure that you guys equip these. Most of these items are going to get multiple knockout abilities. If your guy plays deep down the middle of the field, obviously you'll, in a middle linebacker like a Tampa 2 or a mid read zone, or match coverage where they run down the seam with somebody. Deep end zone is going to give them those better animations zones as well. So again, analyze your scheme. I don't know what it is you run, but you know what zones the certain players on the field play for you and your defense. Utilize the knockouts that correspond with that area of the field. And then from there, you'll have the run stopping and you will have the knockouts on top of the knockout ability in the dual threat. And if you ever try to blitz these guys, they will shed as if they are a defensive lineman with unstoppable force. Now let's get into our secondary items. I want to talk about two different archetypes of coverage player, all right? We're going to talk pure coverage and we're going to talk run support coverage, all right? If you guys decide to utilize these players that are pure coverage players, what we are going to do is we are going to build them so that they can shed a little bit through their passive abilities, but be a little bit weaker against the run, but they are going to be absolutely dominant against the pass. So what we're going to do with this is we are going to target the X factors on these items that are going to be universal coverage. Now, universal coverage, we talked about a couple weeks ago here on the channel. That is every single knockout in the game. Short route, medium route, and deep route for man knockouts, and flat zone, mid zone, and deep zone knockouts for zone KOs. In other words, once you put this ability on the field, you don't need to utilize any knockouts in any other buckets. This also has one step ahead built in for the purpose of man-to-man coverage. I did a video on this 2 weeks ago proving this theory, okay? There's a lot of people out there that are saying that universal coverage doesn't have one step ahead built in. It does. If you guys need to watch it, go back and check out that video. And then for our other ability, we are going to run bottleneck. This is very, very, very important. While I am a major proponent of not running man-to-man coverage, bottleneck man press is very, very different, meaning that it actually works. And yes, it also works against the double me X factors that we've talked about on wide receivers that beat press. Bottleneck tends to beat the beat press X factors on wide receivers. They get dominant win animations. And this is a great stack to be able to utilize, because when you think about it, you're gonna have that opportunity where maybe your opponent no huddles, you've been running zone, you've been running match, and they no huddle on a 3rd down and 7. And you have 2 man under in your audibles. And you've got an entire slew of players with bottleneck and then universal coverage. Think about how this is going to work. You check into man-to-man, your guys roll up into press coverage. They get dominant press wins. Oftentimes don't let the receiver off the ball at all. And then if they do, then they have every man knockout and they've got one step ahead built in, which is going to help those players out. With those players, I actually want to talk about stacking their regular abilities, because we've basically just done nothing but coverage stuff here. So we need to round them out a little bit better. In this bucket, I like to actually add bench press. Now, again, I don't run a ton of man, but when I do, I want a dominant win. I want it to fatigue your receiver, and I want one step ahead, so that way your tired receiver can't cut and run away from him. This is gonna turn your man coverage into a much better setup, okay? And then from there, everything else that you guys need to work on needs to be something related to tackling or forcing fumbles, or you need to find a way, if you can, to get out my way on your player. This is going to help a lot with those RPOs on screens. This is going to help stop vanguards from pancaking your DBs because they don't have reinforcement. This is a must-have ability. But from there, everything else is up to you. Again, for a coverage-based corner, we are running universal coverage, bottleneck, bench press, a tackling ability, and out my way. Anything else is gravy on top of that, okay? Then from there, we're gonna talk about run support players. Now, with run support players, we're talking safeties that might be in the box in a heavier run defense. We're talking about big slot corners that you want for run support, but also have a little bit of coverage skill. You guys can build these in a number of different ways. The best players to utilize as run support corners are going to be your safeties that kind of give you these extra X factors that corners don't get. So with the corners, we get the universal coverage, we get the bottleneck, the zone hawk, and we get the shutdown ability. With the safeties, we get a little bit of extra stuff on top of that. You'll see right here, my absolute favorite thing that I like to do is go with universal coverage. So I have all of the knockouts that I just mentioned in the coverage-based players, but then I will run reinforcement or run stuffer, depending on what type of safety they are. because this is going to give you those sheds. It's going to prevent those vanguard blocks. It's going to just allow you to be all around better. So you're amazing in coverage and you're amazing in shedding the run or RPOs or whatever. If you blitz these guys a lot, you may decide to run dual threat. You know, this doesn't help you at all against, you know, the run. So this is why I'm saying run support. I would probably just go with run stuffer plus universal coverage. If you're asking me, should I run reinforcement or run stuffer? The answer comes down to this. If you use universal coverage, you do not need the knockouts associated with reinforcement. If you use run stuffer, you do not need the sheds associated with reinforcement. This makes universal coverage plus run stuffer the best stack that you can run, but it's not going to be viable on every single safety in the game. So if we were to take a look at some of the others, I do believe that we'll notice some differences in the X factors. You see right here, this is yet another example of a card that gets all the same ones, so we're good there. Truthfully, the safeties in general are very similar. You might find some that just aren't the same. You see CJ Gardner-Johnson here. We take a look at him, and when we see his, again, he's basically the same. So yeah, the safeties are pretty much the same. This is my preferred setup. Now, I can already hear some of you yelling at me, Zan, you made no mention of Avalanche. You made no mention of Avalanche. Here is why. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about the offensive side of the ball here, but I'm going to tell you, just as a preview for tomorrow, every single player on offense in this game now gets the ability known as Truz as one of their 2 X factors. I am running my entire team with 5 skill position players that can touch the football around my quarterback with this ability, and I've fumbled maybe once in 700 total snaps. That is basically what, like 1% of 1%, 10% of 1%. I mean, it's so few that like we're just like we're not even talking fumbles really existing. Now, I've gotten people out there that have said, well, I fumbled with Truz, and that's great. But truthfully, one time for me out of like 700, like I mentioned, just doesn't to me mean that Avalanche is good. To me, this is all but eliminated the fumbles. I could live with once in a while fumbling with this. This is the best way to equip your offensive players. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But as it pertains to the Avalanche meta and why I haven't mentioned any of that, there is a reason why, okay? Now, of course, if you can get an Avalanche on your field, or you want to keep some Avalanches on your bench to just give you the opportunity to sub in a slew of these guys that can pop pads, then sure, go for it. Let me know what you think about it. I'm not a huge believer in it right now with the offensive X factors that this same program affords, but we will talk about that more tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and check out Gridiron Game Plans. Otherwise, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan, to the lab, and good luck.